Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's special event. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce our awesome special guest today and our equally esteemed uh, co-presenter, chatter extraordinaire, Mike Banks. So we're going to be here with Jake. I've got them both on the line here, and we're going to kick it over to them. But before we get started, just really quickly want to let you know, feel free to share your comments on whatever social channel or live feed you happen to be watching this on. We're in a few different places, so keep those coming. We'll put the questions in to Jake and or Banks to tackle. We'll just kind of let them chat, but feel free if you've got questions or additional stuff you want to add. We do have folks manning those social channels or womening, staffing. What's the proper word? But people are over there, live people. So keep it coming. Welcome. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And without any further ado, let's bring on the real stars of the show today. First up, as noted, Jake.
Hello. What's up? Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks, Jake. And Mr. Banks, are you there?
I'm here. Hello.
Awesome. We'll get Banks, even with his nifty little, let me see if I can figure this out. Yeah, we'll get look at that. We've got all of us on the screen there. Wow, this thing's fancy. Cool. Technology. Well, I'm going to get out of everybody's way and let you guys get going here and kick right into it. So thanks. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Thanks for coming, everybody. We appreciate you spending your day with us. Jake, nice to have you. Thanks for being here.
Of course.
It's funny, you and I have been friends for a couple of years. We don't talk that much because we're both on the production grind. So sometimes you have to go to extremes to have a conversation with somebody. So here we are, been looking forward to catching up. And on that note, how is daddy life, man? I mean, what's up with that? We haven't really been able to talk to you about it.
Yeah, it's good. I have a 17-month-old baby. It's our first. Her name is Josie. And she is a ball of fire. She's happy, healthy, and just a crazy little girl, more than I ever could have imagined when I envisioned having a child. Josie is like surpassed all my expectations in the best way. But yeah, it's just wild. Still a year and a half later, my wife and I just look at each other every day and we're like, oh my gosh, we have a little human running around the house.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, congrats on that. That's amazing. I'm sure it's added a lot of excitement and also some extra dimension into your life. I'm sure it's made being on the road a lot more difficult. What's already difficult.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I knew when I started touring initially, I wanted to have, kids, hopefully one day. And
you did it, man.
Yeah. Well, I knew looking at, I don't want to bring us down too much, but touring with like a support act and seeing some older like rock huge bands and realizing that like all the guys in the band are divorced and that's all they do. They just tour. And I promised myself like I don't want to end up like that. Hopefully. I mean, I'm sure they find they're still living their best lives, but I personally wanted to be married and be around for kids and stuff.
Yeah.
So I've tried to make that a priority, and touring with some of the artists I tour with makes it possible because they are not on the road 24/7. It's not like a country act that does 100 shows a year.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky that I am able to tour with some high caliber musicians. I'm spoiled in that regard. And do it a relatively short amount of time throughout the year.
I feel you. Congratulations on finding that balance, because as you said, not many of us make it there. I'm lucky to have the same situation where, and it is a country band, but a country band that only does 18 shows a year. So, it really makes a big difference. I just got you may not know, you probably don't know that from the top to the bottom of this company, like literally the managing director of Allen Heath is a big fan of Vulfpeck. And so we're all very excited. There was a big buzz around when I told them, that you were mixing on D Live, and especially when I talked about doing this, everyone was really excited. So it is very cool, and I think anyone that is really into music, the band might not be for everyone, but if you're into music and you really appreciate incredible songwriting and incredible musicianship, it's a band that you just can't look past. They're absolutely incredible. So, I mean, what's it like to mix them?
It's easy. It's easy to make them sound good because they mix themselves.
Because
And
they
when
are good. Yeah.
they are good, yeah. There's no tricks to pull. All I'm doing is making it loud, I guess. The most difficult thing about mixing them is managing 7 live vocal mics, because they just run around the stage and you never know who's going to be um, singing into what mic. And if you've seen any of their latest shows, they started wearing these outfits that make it difficult to tell who is who. And that that was pretty funny for me to realize that during the show. It's like, wait a minute, I can't tell who Woody is and who Jack is.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to have 7 vocal, my fingers on 7 vocal mics at any given point. I can't have them all at 0, but I try to have them all at minus 15 or something, so I hopefully don't miss like a crucial word or something and can
Right.
catch
Are
it.
you are you using source expansion or anything like that to help you out, or do you have any tools going on to try and
Yeah,
aid you?
I've got the primary source expander on every channel, but I wasn't able to get the threshold up to where it's really doing anything, um,
You got
because
so
of
much ambient stage noise.
they all use wedges, yeah, and
Yeah.
it used to be the joke was like, "How quiet can we make the stage?" Um, we wanna be a quiet band because when they record, it's so quiet, they don't use monitoring normally.
Right.
It's just them in a room playing really quiet, and then when Jack mixes that, he makes it sound like it massive because you can compress it a lot. Um, but yeah, live, the wedges have gotten a little louder, and yeah, there's just
Well,
a
we're all
lot.
getting older, so.
Yeah, yeah. But I did try that, but one thing I did also recently that, made it more difficult is I'm processing all of those vocals like a lead vocal because at any point, like, Joey could be on any of those mics, and
Mhm.
he's singing lead stuff. Um, so that made it harder because I have more top end from all of those mics than I normally would if they were just, like, background vocals that weren't compressed as much
Mhm.
and hyped as much. Um, and I thought about trying to use, like, the Dugan auto mixer, but because there are multiple people singing at the same time, it wouldn't work, and I don't have a primary that I could default to. I don't know if that makes sense. If you have any
Yeah.
ideas, I'm all ears and how to
No,
manage that.
it it's a tough situation, I've got, 4 vocal positions, only 1 singer, but he moves every 2 songs, and so it kind of
Yeah,
changes the room dynamics every 2 songs. And also, we play large rooms, as do you, where you've got a lot of crowd noise. So you've got so much bleed in the microphones that it makes most of the tools false trigger, and it gets really complicated. So you end up just having to use your fingers. I mean, I've seen people, if you want some really clever tricks how to cheat physics, Drew Thornton is the guy that you want to talk to. He is the absolute
yeah,
wizard of creating that stuff. But a lot of side chaining would be the best. You have to use,
yeah.
so when you're getting a lead vocal signal on one, it can tuck the other ones through side chaining, and but it gets.
That's the tricky thing because the show is so wild. I don't know. I can't even use, like, macros and, uh, like, have pre-configured settings like that. Like, I thought about that. I thought, "Well, I'll just do that but then Theo's at the drums, and then he's singing lead, and then he's down at the center singing lead, and then we have a guest that's on, like, the spare channel singing lead
Right.
back and forth with Theo, and then they're singing harmonies with each other, so I can't tuck either one of those. Uh, and that's something that, like, doesn't always happen. I don't always have a guest, and if I was using a macro, then that would just mess me up.
So you're not
I
using
don't know.
scenes at all, I assume, right?
No, yeah.
I'm
I've
in the
thought
same boat.
about it,
I
but it's
can't do it. I
yeah,
did a tour last year that was 100% on scenes, but the country band that I'm with, I can't. They play everything different every night, and it's great, but you never know what's gonna happen until it's happening, you know? So
yeah. With Ben Rector, I use scenes, and actually his acoustic tour in the spring, I did a D Live for that, and you know that.
yeah.
And I didn't use the scenes for the acoustic tour, but his big, uh, with a full band tour, I do scenes, and that whole show is like very, um, I can rely on the musicians to give me almost exactly the same thing every night, in every song, every moment of every song, so I know exactly what my moves are gonna be, and it's easy to program. But yeah, Vulfpeck, it's like anything goes, and that's what makes it hilarious and fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, isn't it fun to be forced into mixing again? I mean, remember when we didn't have scenes and all these
Oh,
crazy
yeah.
tools and all that stuff, and you actually had to use your hands and your ears and your wits and try and, figure it out as you went along. So, yeah,
Yep.
it's been fun to get back to that. I, uh I know obviously but, I had the pleasure of mixing Corey's side project at the Newport Jazz Fest, and we
Yeah.
didn't we didn't have a sound check. We did a line check during changeover, like,
Was
with the PA open, and we just went for it, and it was, what was it, 18-piece band, and I just had so much fun. Like, that was one of the best things I've ever done, so thanks for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Corey, man, he's that is a wild band, and if I don't know if anyone was at Bonnaroo, but I got to hang out and see their set, and this is the first time I stopped touring with Corey last year when Josie was born because he was doing so many dates, and I just wanted to be home.
The
Um,
guy's an animal. He likes to
yeah,
work, that's for sure.
yeah, man, I don't there's like 3 of him. I'm convinced he's figured out time travel. Um, yeah, Miles Hansen is mixing for him now, and Miles is awesome.
Yeah.
But I got to hang out, like, with the whole band and see the show not working for the first time, at Bonnaroo the day after Vulfpeck played, which is, like, totally different experience, getting to just enjoy Corey and his band, yeah, without the stress. Um, but yeah, it's fun, and yeah, Corey and his band, that's the first time I tried the D Live stuff, and I was using the C1500, the smaller format, and now with Vulfpeck, I'm using the S5000, and with Ben, I'm using the S5000, and I've kind of like I've kind of learned I like having everything on faders a little bit more than trying to page through scenes. I
Yeah,
mean, layers.
I wanna get more into that conversation, but before we get too
Yeah.
far off, we had someone asking if you're using Dyne-8s.
Oh, yeah, I am. I have a pretty strong Dyne-8. Let me see what I'm doing. Um, I'm a fan of a plugin that is similar, that was around a while
The
ago.
C6 or
Yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah.
C6. And I'm copying my C6 settings, and I just let's see.
And how are you finding the transition between the 2?
Um, Great. I've tried a lot of multi-band compressors, and I like the D Live the best out of any I've tried on, like, live consoles. Um, and what I do studio stuff as well. I'm in my studio now,
Yeah,
and
we can see
my
your fancy studio.
yeah,
You lucky
um,
man.
it looks fancy. It's just really hot right now.
Yeah.
'Cause I turned the AC off so it wouldn't be blowing
Well,
during
yeah,
the
moving air and, critical audio don't really mix all that well, so
yeah,
pun
that's
intended.
the one bummer of this particular studio. Um, but yeah, it's, what was I getting at? Generally,
Dyne-8.
I just keep it pretty flat, like, the same the same threshold and gain reduction on all 4 bands, and the test for me so I borrowed a console and I set it up in my studio with multi-tracks playing virtual soundcheck and mixed, Ben's show through my speakers and got his vocal, like, dialed like or like the record. Um, basically, and I have a couple of references I was trying to get to because I've mixed other stuff for him, like studio stuff, and I was able to get it almost exactly the same, just using the built-in compressor and the Dyne 8, and that kind of for me was the missing piece. That was like, can I get the lead vocal sounding like a polished studio vocal with just the built-in processing? And I'm really happy with the sound I got, and that's what gave me the confidence to use it on Vulfpeck, because they're, it's a lot of instrumental stuff. I knew the instrumental stuff was great by using it with Corey, and like drums sounded amazing, and guitars and bass, and the vocal stuff with Ben is what gave me the, full confidence that I could use it for everything. And I'm not using any plugins anymore live, which is
Sweet.
the
It's a good place to be.
it's a good place to just rely on the console and know that all I have to do is show up with my flash drive with the file on it.
There's
live
so
console,
many good tools out there. I don't deny that, but there's something to be said for simplicity, and I'm so thankful to have gotten to a point where I have nothing but my console and my transmitters,
Yes.
and
Yeah. And you could get really fancy with the soft keys and side chaining and all that. As fancy as I need to be, at least. And with the scene recall and stuff. But
well, just so
yeah.
you know, and everyone else knows, we are heavy in development on the next firmware version for DLive, and there is some incredibly exciting stuff coming that's going to blow everyone's minds. We're definitely going to reset the bar, so stay tuned, everyone, for that. And I'm excited for you, Jake, to experience some of this stuff that we've been working on.
Sweet.
Yeah, for sure. Someone was asking about your workflow, and we can tie that into a question that I had is, where we touched on it briefly. We're seeing a lot of engineers going smaller and smaller and smaller. So I just wanted to get your feelings. You kind of mentioned it already, but your feelings on the small format. Before we used to talk about small format versus large format, but we kind of flipped the script and muddied those waters by bringing out a small footprint mixer that does large format tricks and large format channel count. So it's really kind of confused the situation. So you said you are a fan of faders. You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I like having faders available. And I, like with Corey, I had the small thing, and we used that for a couple years, and he still has it. But yeah, 12 with Corey, I was also mixing monitors from front of house, and it was like all those guys are on ears, and girls, and
yeah, don't forget Nega. She's amazing.
Yeah. And then Phoebe was on a couple of tours that we did.
Oh, cool. I didn't get to meet
singing. Phoebe Cadis, she's awesome.
I'll check it out.
But yeah, with that, there was definitely a lot of soft key programming and a lot of DCA spill happening. So I was spilling like the entire front of house input list, and then spilling the entire monitor input list, essentially with the soft keys, and then going through them with the layers. And it's just it was a lot to kind of do with just the C1500. And I don't know
cool
if
to say that you did it though, because I think most people would look at a 12 fader console and say 18-piece funk band with a horn section and doing front of house and monitors on a 19-inch wide console, flat impossible, like just cannot be done. And it can.
Yeah, it can. And we had one key piece of that is we had an IP6, which has the knobs on stage. And it took a long time, but I programmed it to be a monitor console basically for Corey. So we had all the inputs in that in the pages, and then I had one page that recalled a scene for everyone else's in-ear mix. So it just changed the sends it was controlling, and he could control everyone's in-ear mix, level and pan at least, and mute from that little thing. So while I was tuning and mixing front of house, he could make changes without me having to worry about it. which, yeah, I mean, it's amazing how powerful that can be. The uh, the thing that I like the most, and this is just an aerial view of when I'm looking at console selection, is I can load that DLive file on any engine and use any surface, and it's the same exact file, and I'm not worried about like mixes just disappearing when you lose processing power,
Yep.
like every other console,
It's a
every other
big thing.
brand. Yeah. And so that to me makes it invaluable when I'm specing it for a one-off. And lately, all I'm doing are fly dates, and I have to spec the console. And so I'm relying, like the whole show depends on my file loading correctly. And I'm sure you do the same thing, right? You spec like an exact rig, or is yours on
I'm
a truck?
pretty lucky. My rig stays together. I have a
Okay.
custom rig built for me, and it stays together, and it shows up in the semi.
Okay. Yeah, you're
But
lucky.
but I'm not doing anything fancy, so I could turn up to any console and just plug in my file, and I have,
Yeah.
So, there's no reason why I couldn't, but just the way that the tour runs, we have a package, from Spectrum that stays together.
Nice.
Um, so it all, rolls as a package. Yeah, it is nice to come. It's like, coming home to a familiar friend. All of my stuff is there, and my funk is on it, and those kinds of things. But there's no
Oh
reason
yeah.
why I couldn't just drop my file in. We had a day where the semi had a breakdown, and I happened to have a C15 that I had just chucked on the production truck, and I pulled it down and was setting it up in Monitor World, and the front of house guy came out. He's like, "What are you doing? You can't do the show on that." And I was like, "Yeah, I can. I just put my file in and watch me go.
Yeah.
No big deal." And he's a Digico guy, and his head just exploded. He like couldn't figure out how that was possible. But yeah. And you mentioned the
Mhm.
IP6. That's another thing that I just wanted to touch on, because it's something that I've grown dependent on as a monitor engineer. I couldn't imagine doing my work anymore without IP controllers. It's just such a gift, to be able to offload some of that control, but not give away. It's not like you're
Yeah.
sending it out and it's gone.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you've got scenes and things like that that you can control on stage, and you can really interact with the artist and let them help you, which is just the greatest gift ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we hit some of these questions?
Yeah, we should. I was just ignoring everyone. So let's see. You want to pick one?
There was a live stream question. I always have a live stream mix from my console setup, and I've been using groups, so I just that way it's harder to mess up. So I know like my drums go to a drum group, and I use the same groups when I'm mixing studio stuff. So drums, bass, guitar, keys, vocals. Those 5 groups or 6 groups. I don't know. I can't count. I do think I'm combining. Actually, I think I'm combining keys, guitars, horns in one group, because I'm actually not doing any EQ. I'm not doing any major compression. The only thing I'm doing is a little bit of like I have a limiter on the drum group, and that just like tightens the kick and the snare and holds them at 0 essentially,
Yep.
or
Uh-huh.
-1. And then bass, I'm using the dynate on the bass group sidechain to the kick, to just
Nice.
tuck it out of the way. But
Yep.
then by doing it on the group, I never have to think about the bass channel. Like I can have 4 basses, and I don't have to remember, oh, I got to go do the dynate thing on the bass channel. It's going to happen in the bass bus. But other than that, I'm not doing any processing. It's more for organization. So when I just know I'm sending stuff to those groups, and then those just go to my left, right, and my left, right goes to matrix, 1, 2 for the
So,
PA matrix, and then matrix 3 down 6 dB for front fill. And
got
I
it. So
am doing,
you've got one two mix that feeds all of your zones
yeah,
and your
yeah.
stream.
And then the stream is fed directly from, it's a matrix, but it's fed from the groups. So it
Okay.
doesn't, my left, right doesn't feed the matrix. And that is so I can pull my like Spotify fader out of, it's not feeding the stream, because that's
Got
always
it.
an issue.
So it's a mix minus basically.
Yeah, basically. So it's everything. Oh, and the audience mics. I always have audience mics. So those are the addition to the matrix that obviously aren't going to my left,
Right.
right. And that I think I have what is it? It's like it's the SSL style bus compressor on that. And just like it's doing
Yep.
2 dB of
It's
compression.
called Bus. That thing is amazing. I'm using it on so many input channels now.
Yeah. It adds a little bit of like a spank to the mix when
Yeah.
it's going to the broadcast truck, if there is one.
Yeah. Dr. Rob will be happy to hear that you like that compressor.
Yeah, it sounds good. Someone might have asked, I don't know if they also asked about like PA stuff, but I don't do any bus compression on the PA. And that's mainly because I'm doing so much compression on the individual channels.
I'm with you, man.
When I've tried to do bus compression on the PA and like the whole band kicks in, I don't want the mix to get quieter. I want it just to get louder. And without having any bus compression, the whole thing breathes. And if you have enough headroom in your PA, which I'm lucky to mix on PAs that have way more headroom than I can ever need, then you don't need that. And it just sounds super dynamic and loud,
Where are you running level wise at front of house? Like as far as
DB
dB, like
level?
how loud do you mix that band? I'm just curious.
I think a lot of times I'm peaking at like 102 dBA.
Nice.
And occasionally 105 is like the loudest I would go, I think.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to point that I kind of knew the answer. I was just playing devil's advocate because for people that are younger and newer to mixing, louder does not equal better. And it's usually the less experienced, less skilled engineers that just mix loud because they don't know how to make a quieter mix sound and feel loud. That's your aspiration, is to have a small number on the meter, but make it feel big for people that are trying to learn how to do this stuff. And that's where the art really comes in.
And the average, I mean, those are the peaks, the average is always under 100. And I'm talking like the 3-second average, the 10-second average, the minute.
Yeah. And for anyone that doesn't know, on a meter sense, that's quiet. That's a nice, comfortable show where you're not going to feel beat up and ears ringing after the show, which is something that I really appreciate. My favorite shows are when I can take my earplugs out and then I know that the engineer really knows what they're doing. If I don't have to put in and I'm even if it's even the tiniest bit loud or harsh, I'm 15 dB plugs in immediately. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that ruins a show for me if I can't listen without earplugs. And I've left shows before because it's like I'm not gonna sit through this with earplugs in. But
for sure,
if you're mixing front of house and your ears hurt, it's too loud for everybody.
For sure.
Like I never want my own ears to hurt. So why would I mix so loud that they would, for everybody?
I don't mix front of house, but I was lucky to have mentors that were studio and front of house engineers that showed me, by doing in my presence, that you can have a really big, fun, dancey mix that, you can have a conversation over.
Yeah.
And that's a real art. And I appreciate people that can do it. That's not my bag. I mix to tiny speakers and I love it. But, I appreciate you guys at the other end. Do you want to, do you have a favorite
PA? Right now, L Acoustics is
K1,
one of my
K2.
Yeah, and I honestly I don't know. I know one is bigger than the other. And I mix, depending on what venue I'm in, they might have one or the other. I
A lot
will
of times they have
say
both working together.
Yeah, you're right. But yeah, the K1 and K2s, I think they sonically sound pretty similar. It's like almost too much low end. I tune my PA, and I'm not lucky enough to tour with a system engineer, so I do like all the tuning myself usually. Or I'm doing the fine tuning. I show up somewhere and there's always a system tech that has set up the PA and tuned it, and then I'm just tweaking it. But I try to tune it with a small haystack, and then it tapers off a little bit, so it's like a medium warm PA. Just a gentle slope. And the L Acoustics has like more low end than I need in the mains. We just did. I mixed Ben at the 4th of July show a few weeks ago, downtown Nashville, and I didn't use the subs. That's the first time that's ever happened. Like
Sounds like K1 because those
yeah,
drivers
yeah,
have they have a lot of low end in the
it was insane. It was insane, and that's the goal, to have the full spectrum coming from the main hang, because then you're not worried about cancellations with the subs coming from somewhere else, and phase stuff, when it's all just together, and then every zone gets the same experience. But yeah, my other favorite is DMB, the J's. I've mixed on the J's the most. I know there's KSL, and is it GSL? Is that the
The
other one?
GSL, yeah, my
Yeah,
tour switched to GSL, and, I don't go out front, so I don't know how it sounds, but what I can tell you is that, my bleed on stage went down by almost 50% from what we had with the
yeah,
K1 rig, and that I really appreciate.
yeah,
So, the reviews are good, so I assume it sounds good out front, but,
yeah,
I have different people ask me all the time and that's why I asked you, because people ask me every day what PAs I like, and I just say I hate all of them because they just ruin my mixes.
yeah.
But uh,
But
you
that's
know,
nice when you got the ability for the PA to have a cardioid pattern in it. Is
yeah, I don't,
not throwing a lot on stage.
all that science is well beyond me, but I did
Yeah,
appreciate that. I mean, we've got hundreds and hundreds of boxes in our rig because we're playing stadiums, so there's a lot of energy there and a lot of potential to wreak havoc with my mixes on stage. So I did really appreciate that part. We had
yeah.
a really good question that I wanted to get to because it is apt. Kevin asked, "What's the biggest challenge with mixing a band full of not only expert musicians, but most of them are engineers also that know what they want to hear and know how to get there. They're critical ear studio engineers, and not every musicians like that. So it's got to add a whole new dimension to it.
Yeah, well, I will say with Vulfpeck, their expectations are non-existent or low, because their goal is to just have fun every time. So it makes my job a lot easier, because
That's interesting.
they don't ask me for a lot. They trust that I'm gonna do what sounds good.
Amazing.
But when they do have tweaks, it's like very specific. It's like, let's just turn this up a little bit, or brighten this, or darken this. It honestly is probably easier than mixing for an artist that doesn't know what they want. Because they can help me. Anything they tell me is just helping me.
Yeah. And there's
The
something to be said
Yeah,
too. There's a lot of artists that do know what they want, but what they want is toxic to the result of the show. I've had that
yeah,
before too, where they want so much low end that it just ruins the show, or it's something like that. I've seen that too, so that can be a challenge. That's
yeah,
amazing, and it's a testament to you as an engineer and them as performers that they just let you have it.
yeah. The one, like, between the last two shows, one tweak I got from Corey was like, "Hey, let's turn the keys up a little. Make sure that you can hear them." And that's the tricky thing with Vulfpeck, is because you have different players on every keyboard, and Jack plays very strongly and Woody plays very lightly.
Hmm.
And they both have really good touch. So it's not like I'm just trying to like crush Jack with the compressor.
Are you
But I
using
have to.
the same channels for when they're both on there? Are you switching,
Yeah,
or have any
I'm using the same
processing
ones.
changes or any of that?
That's where I could try the scene thing. But
You can get caught with your pants down too.
yeah, I don't want to just forget to switch over, because it would get messy, because I've got all these different. I have 4 keyboards to worry about. So am I going to do
Yeah,
like
and they're probably all stereo.
8 macros or something, like key position 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 loud or quiet. um I could do that, but then that's a lot to think about, when all I'm trying to focus on is like getting the vocals right, and then following who's playing a solo. But that's the thing, like Woody is rarely soloing, but what he's playing needs to be heard prominently, and that is that's something I'm having to pay attention to. So it's like I've got all these lead vocal faders with the instruments and the vocals to ride, which is a lot more to think about than I think most people have to worry about, because people go just to see Joe or they go just to see Woody. And it would be awful if someone came just to see Woody play and they couldn't hear him the whole time. Even if he's not soloing, for 4 songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the hardest part because they're all skilled and you want to hear everything, I guess.
For sure. Yeah. I had a question. What's your favorite venue to mix in? Or even more like, if you don't want to answer that one or don't have an answer for that one, big room or small room?
I like big rooms.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of a nice clean sound. I mean, outdoors when it's not too windy and the weather is like really nice is my favorite environment. When you've got a great PA and like no reflections,
Yeah.
it
The no
sounds like a
reflections
studio
thing
mix.
is, but the wind when your PA starts moving left and right and you have an auto flange, gets
That's
really exciting.
that gets tricky, yeah.
Yeah.
But besides that, I think large venues that are treated really well, there's one in Grand Rapids, it's a large club that sounds awesome, and I forget the name of it. It's like it's where Ben played last on our last tour, if you look it up. But I think arenas generally can sound really good. Definitely stadiums. I've only mixed a stadium a handful of times, and it's very difficult to mix stadiums. But
It's a tough
yeah,
animal.
arenas I think can usually sound really good, because the reflections are there, but they're usually far enough away, and the PA is close enough, at least to the mix position, that it sounds really massive and good and clean.
Yeah.
Um,
I got another one here.
yeah,
How much time do you guys, and I'm curious, actually, it's a great question. How much time do you guys spend sound checking? I mean, do the guys do a matinee and fool around and noodle for hours, or are you in and out?
with Vulfpeck, we've just been doing throw and go stuff, so they're not
Oh,
sound
right.
checking. We are with the festivals at least.
Sure.
Is all we've done are festival shows the last few years
You're
since COVID.
living off your file at that point.
Yeah. Well, we did a rehearsal before the Bonnaroo show, and I got to bring in a D-Live and dial in my file for that,
Cool.
which was nice. And then I'm just relying on that file the next day, and I'm mixing. We just check. I have headphones on, and we do the check that way. And then when it's go time, just unmute. But they'll spend 15, 20 minutes. They really don't spend that much time sound checking. When we've done like headlining shows, it's still not a ton of time. They'll just get up, get comfortable, and maybe jam a little bit. But they don't want to waste any of the spontaneity before the show happens. They want to
Right.
save the fun, improv moments for the show. And
Yeah, and
you lose that if you like have too much fun in sound check.
for sure. Yeah, knowing those
Yeah.
guys, they're probably on deck during changeover too, like doing all their own
Oh yeah.
stuff. And,
Yeah. And it's kind
uh,
of the way we have to do it. We have a very small crew. It's just me and the monitor guy, and
yeah, I just love that there's no
yeah,
ceremony with them though. Like there's no big opening. They're just like, okay, we're ready. Let's freaking play.
let's
They
walk it.
just,
Yeah, just walk
yeah,
out and play. Yeah.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah.
It's just good old fashioned, you know, playing music and no flash and magic.
Yep. Yep.
Make their own magic with the music.
Yep. I have a handful of questions too from my that were sent to me before this.
Go, buddy.
I'm gonna do real quick. What's more like? Jacob asked, what's more important, EQ or compression? And I'll just say EQ, because you can do a lot with EQ, and you can
Yep.
always ride a fader for level.
Agreed. Agreed.
How many subgroups do you mix into? Those are, drums, bass, guitar, keys, vocals, 5, usually. Favorite D-Live compressor plugin, and I just haven't explored that much. I'm using the RMS, which is the default, I think, right?
It is. Yep.
Do you have a
You gotta
favorite
get in there,
compressor?
man. There's some great models in there.
What's your favorite?
I use the bus is amazing if you want something really soft. The Opto is
Yeah.
incredible. And then the 16T is, the old faithful um, DBX lookalike.
Yeah.
And those would be I mean, I use all of them. I
Yeah.
have people ask me all the time, what do you use on bass? What do you use on guitar? And my only answer to that question sounds snarky, but it's completely accurate that I
Yeah.
literally try all of them and I use the one that sounds the best. The 1176 modeler is really great. They're all really good.
Yeah.
Um,
And
that
I have the manual peak on bass. I just
Yeah, that's
looked at
just
that.
and it's great. I
Yeah.
mean, if all you wanna do is limit dynamics and you're not looking for any specific zhuzh, it's
Yeah.
a great compressor. Do you
Yeah.
do much, virtual sound check?
I always do virtual sound check. And I've started bringing a Dante card with me.
Mhm.
Um, and that way that's goes back to like being just reliability. I know I don't have to mess around in the Dante controller if I just bring my own card.
It
and
is nice, yeah, and you don't
and
have to
it's
worry
already
about
the settings
yeah.
are there. I just plug that in. I pop that in the back of the Surface and
Yeah, the computer and the card are like,
my
"I know you,"
computer.
and they just work.
Yep, it just
I do
works.
the same thing. I run Waves, but, just for multi-track, I don't do plugins, but same
Yeah,
thing, I carry my card with me. I have a little, compartment in my, Fly work box that it just lives in.
yep,
And wherever I go, I just pop my card in so that just know it's going to work.
yep. Let me hit a couple more of these.
Yeah, please.
How do you like your drums to be tuned for the mix? And honestly, it's not up to me. It's just kind of up to the drummer. I don't know much about drum tuning. I just know it sounds better when they're tuned better. Uh, we dampen the kick a lot with Vulfpeck, like almost put a whole pillow in there a lot of times, or like a blanket, like a packing blanket. Um, and then you could boost the low end as much as you want, and it's just fat and tight.
Mm.
But they definitely tune. I mean, they're really good drummers, and they tune it well. And I'm sorry, I'm not a drummer. I don't know how to tell you how to tune it to be the same.
How
But
often do you have like Nate and other people coming in to guest on drums?
uh, every other show, it seems like there's a guest drummer, someone who will hop on the kit. And it kind of, I don't know. I don't know what they do, but however they tune it, it, I feel like it translates pretty well. I'm not changing settings wildly between
That's
drummers. And Jack
that's
and
huge
Theo
because
switch
usually
off.
the difference between drummers is night and day. It's astronomical. I can't do
Yeah.
anything. My drum tech on my tour is a really good drummer, but I
Yeah.
can't do anything with him playing because it's completely different when the actual drummer gets up.
Yeah. And Jack and Theo are different. Theo hits a little softer, a little more dynamics, I guess, and Jack is more steady. Uh, and occasionally that dynamic is audible in front of us, but I'm kind of crushing the snare a lot. So,
Uh,
and it just pops, and it's just pops a little differently with Jack than it does with Theo, but it still translates well. The kick feels great with both of them.
Yeah, try the Opto or the Optronic on that snare and
Yeah.
in virtual sometime and let me know what you think.
Yeah, I will.
It has a really cool if you're really gonna bear down into a snare drum, it has that really cool compressed snare sound from both, from the optical fixture.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll try that.
Got any
Um,
more?
well, this is a big one, but advice to younger engineers. And I would just say find a band to start touring with that you're friends with, or an artist. Uh, and you don't want to do anything for free. You don't want to sell yourself short. But if you're starting out and don't have any experience, that is an easy way to get some. And just say, hey, will you let me come out and tour manage and mix front of house for you, mix monitors or whatever. And just doing clubs. Just start doing it with an artist friend. And it's obviously better if you are younger to do that. It's hard to do when you're old and you need to make money.
Yeah.
But that's my best advice, I think. And you obviously learn a lot. Read all the manuals. watch all the tutorial videos, learn like your tools inside and out. And if you're doing club shows and it's different console every day, then read the manual for that console and watch all the videos before the show, and download the latest whatever offline editor and create a show file, and label all your inputs according to your input list before you show up. And it saves you a ton of time, and you can get a better mix when you're actually at the show day. That specifies preparation.
Preparation is everything. I could not have said. Literally, I thought I was listening to myself speaking that for me. So, I'm glad you're a man after my heart. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're a busy man, so I'm gonna let you go. But one last question before I do. Alex will kill me if I don't ask you. What was your first
Okay.
Allen Heath mixer?
It was the C1500.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought so, but I just wanted to
The
confirm.
D Live. Yep. And
Cool.
that got me. I love it. That was the first one.
Sweet. Well, we're happy to have you on the platform, and
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
welcome to the family. And I'll let you get back to that beautiful baby you got. And thanks for your time. We really appreciate you. I know everyone enjoyed hearing what you had to say. So until the next chat, which I hope doesn't take a live stream to manifest, but
Yes. And hopefully I'm not just badgering you with questions.
no, not at all. I actually really enjoy it. I think we're all so lucky to enjoy what we do. People apologize all the time for, my phone blows up all day with questions, but I love what I do, and I love my job. I love the industry, and I love being able to help people. So
Yeah.
it's a great thing, and we're all very lucky. So enjoy your day, sir. And
Thank
thanks
you.
for coming, everybody.
All right. See ya.